listening to Truth or Dare to Share by Ambitiously Intuitive.
Welcome to this episode of Truth or Dare to Share. I'm just going to go right to it. We are obviously talking about The Lion King. I've got Cynthia here today. Cynthia, would you like to say hello?
Hello, everyone.
As we were preparing for this, Cynthia just said something shocking, and I don't want to steal her thunder. Do you want to share your opinion, right out the gate reaction about The Lion King? Because I'm going to be thinking about this all day long.
So, honestly, I remember going and watching this movie in the movie theater. And I was super excited to watch it because, you know, Jonathan Taylor Thomas, Home Improvement, Tom and Huck, it's all like, yeah. And so I was like very excited to see this movie. And I've seen it several times, but this is probably my least favorite Disney movie. And the reason is because it's just so freaking sad. It's just so sad. I mean, I know that in the end, there's this like open, you know, really great story, but it's just like so sad every time.
I would argue the only thing sadder is probably Bambi.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay.
I would never watch that. So,
well, here's my reaction / argument. Okay. So what's your first movie you saw in theaters?
Oh God, I have no idea because my family was very movie. We went to the movies all the time, like everything. So I have no idea.
What's your earliest memory? It may not have been the first one. What's your earliest memory of a movie?
Whew, I don't know.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, so mine was Aladdin, and I had an obsession with Aladdin. I'm pretty sure my mom got me one of those VHS tapes for Sing Along, which now explains my karaoke obsession. And I specifically, you've done karaoke with me, I go on a musical journey. Disney gets its own like special place. So I was really obsessed with Aladdin. And the next movie I remember seeing it. So 1992, Aladdin. I think Lion King came out in like 95. And apparently Aladdin was one of the highest grossing movies of that time. And the only thing that has surpassed it and has maintained it has been The Lion King. I agree with you. It's exceptionally sad. The earliest movie I remember watching, though, was Bambi. And my mom's uncle, my great uncle Joe, my mom, and I remember this, my mom tells me we would watch it. We would cry when the mom got shot. And then we would finish the movie and we would start all over again and do it over and over. And she's like, what are So I do like sad movies. It's kind of like The Land Before Time.
I love that one though.
Littlefoot and Sarah. Yeah. Great movie. I don't think it's made by Disney.
No, it's not.
We'll have to look up who's The Land Before Time. The Lion King I love because every single song is just a fucking bop. I have memories.
The songs are really good.
Yeah, with my childhood friends, when we would get let out for recess, it was like there was an imaginary wall that when they were like, okay, you can go, and me and my friends would like bucket to the swings, and we had like our assigned swing. Mine was like the second to the end, and we would sing songs the entire recess. And I'm telling you, I'm Gonna Be a Mighty King was like at the top of our Spotify rap of whatever existed in, I don't know, kindergarten or second grade, whatever it was. I loved it. I still love it. When I rewatched it a couple weeks ago in preparation for this conversation, I've been to Sleep No More. So I obviously think about Macbeth, and this is based on Hamlet. I've never seen that like played out. Like my knowledge of Hamlet comes from like 10 Things I Hate About You when the one character is obsessed. I know I'm merging a bunch of concepts, but those are all like my pop culture memories of Shakespeare, and where I got my education was from Julia Stiles and Heath Ledger. When did you find out that Lion King was based on Hamlet?
I don't know that I knew that. I don't know.
You didn't?
No, I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, that's another reason why it's sad. It's based on
I'm
Hamlet.
seeing yes. Okay. Yeah. Oh, and the biblical stories of Joseph and Moses.
Okay, so I didn't know that. I guess, well, technically then Old Testament comes first, Shakespeare.
Yeah.
And now we've got it with like the King of the Jungle. Yeah, it's definitely fucking sad. So the new one's coming out. This is the impetus of us having a conversation.
Yeah.
Right. what are
The
your thoughts
prequel.
on the live action? Let's just go into act 2 and ask some questions, because clearly not your favorite. I'd put it in my top 3. My mom would be very disappointed in you, but she fell asleep in Wicked, so she doesn't count. But we went and saw, I took her to see it on Broadway. I think she took Kellen when it came to like Broadway on the road in New Orleans. My mom's, I think it's tied for Beauty and the Beast for my mom.
I will say though, at Disney, you can go to see the live Lion King, and that
And
is
Animal
really
Kingdom, right?
amazing. Yeah,
Yeah, I've
that's
seen it.
really amazing. Yeah. What was your question? I'm sorry.
I don't know. I've asked you a whole bunch. I guess you were telling me about it stems from Old Testament. We were getting into Shakespeare. And yeah, I mean, I've had a couple, but we were going into act 2. We're
Okay.
I don't know, man. I'm
Oh,
all over
I
the
remember what
place.
I was going to say.
Okay.
So I just saw Wicked, and one of the previews was for Mufasa, which actually looks really good. I thought it was just going to be like another live action, and Brandon's like, "Oh, it's already that already exists," and I'm like, "Yeah,
Mhm.
this is the prequel, and it looks really good. It looks pretty good." So I will
Kenyatta's
probably
not
watch that with the
here,
girls.
and I think that she's gonna get mad at me for saying this, but I did not like the live action. And
I haven't seen
I
it.
thought they miscasted well, Beyonce plays um I can't think of the name right now. Simba's love interest,
Nala.
Nala. She plays adult Nala. And it just, this is the thing about remakes. I'm attached to the voices. So when you're talking about like Jonathan Taylor Thomas, like all the people that they chose for the live action just didn't meet the expectations for the cartoon. Whereas Wicked, which we have an episode about, but that was on the Broadway show, not the movie. Wicked is a perfect, like perfect, exceptional. I was talking to my friend Anissa about this last night. Adaptation where they took creative liberties, they were intentional and just so well thought out. Whereas I thought the live action was, they were too close to the regular storyline, and the changes they did make didn't serve any
What
purpose.
changes did they make?
It didn't feel as colorful, for
Oh,
one
I
thing.
see.
I think that's something maybe even like with the Little Mermaid, which I didn't have this issue, but I read this about the Little Mermaid, that Under the Sea, like it's a very beautiful song and it has a lot of color and animation. So I felt like the Lion King was kind of like gray. Daisy's like knocking over my light. It's okay. um I also the songs, like Elton John wrote a perfect masterpiece in Can You Feel the Love Tonight, and the song doesn't hit the same. Whereas in Wicked, when they redo Gravity, uh the changes
So
that
good.
they made, it's just I cried almost either happy tears or sad tears almost the entire
It
movie.
was amazing. It was literally I couldn't believe how good it was. I thought that my expectations were going to be too high because you know how that goes, but I think because they sang live on that, it was
Mm,
just amazing. It was just
yeah.
breathtaking.
Yeah, I was also talking to Amina about this. I'm speaking on her behalf. We were having a whole analysis of why Cynthia's performance in this was so important as who she is in her day to day and embodying that role that she was just born to play, Elphaba. And the same thing for Ariana Grande. We were talking about Mariah Carey versus Ariana Grande, how Mariah Carey, obviously, Ariana is one of the first singers to match Mariah's range, but the difference, there are two main differences that Amina pointed out. So this is her perspective that I'm regurgitating, but I agree with it. That Mariah obviously wrote all 19 of her number one hits. And she also had the life experience that not only does she have this unbeatable range, but she has a story to tell. The emotions are behind it. And she was the one who wrote them. And how this is the first time we're seeing Ariana Grande be at an age where she has like the life experience, what you're talking about of being a live singer. And like when she sings Seven Rings, those are all fun songs. Like, you know, I
Yeah.
definitely have jammed to them in the car. But what is Ariana Grande going to do now that, because she was born to play Glinda, she manifested this role.
Yeah.
It's perfect. I love how we
That's
started about the Lion King and ended up on Wicked.
Well, it's really interesting too because I used to not really like Ariana Grande. I just thought she was like a pop star. Like I didn't even realize her range until I saw her on I want to say it was on what was it on? Maybe Jimmy Kimmel or something and she was doing
Mhm.
some singing thing.
Celine Dion, she does a lot of good like
Oh
SNL and
my God. I just could not believe how amazing, because obviously it was not pre-recorded. She did it live.
yeah.
And I was like, whoa. So, and now I obviously now I'm a fan. But
Yeah,
um
her rendition of Popular, the comedic timing coupled with the singing. So like compare that if and when you watch Lion King, you you want to hold it. I think I went in with too high of expectations, whereas with Wicked, I've been disappointed with too many live remakes. I'm not a big fan of the Beauty and the Beast remake. No disrespect to Emma Watson, right?
yeah.
I it's fun. One of my favorite parts is like the memes that came out of comparing the Beast as human versus Beast, the cartoon, and they were like ranking attractiveness, and the cartoon Beast got like number one.
Honestly, I've seen it, but I have not really seen it. The Beauty and the Beast. Like I
it
feel like I've seen parts of it, but I
it like
haven't seen
makes you
all the
fall
way
asleep.
through.
It's and it's another thing where Wicked learned the lessons from Lion King remake, Beauty and the Beast remake. I thought Little Mermaid they went to her voices. They that like that song like Part of Your
Yeah,
World.
is
She
way
it's her
better.
her and Cynthia. I want to say her last name, but I don't want to mispronounce it. Erivo, Arab. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
But somebody out there, feel free to give us the phonetics on how to say it properly. I know if Kenyatta were here, she would. She's the one who educated me because I didn't know her long-standing Broadway career, and I want to. I will definitely make a point to go see her live because stunning. Um,
It's
yeah,
interesting too. She's been on other stuff. Like she was in The Outsiders. She was Holly, like um the Stephen King adaptation. So, it's really she does all sorts of stuff.
yeah. And what do you think of them on the press tour? I love that we're not talking about Lion King, but this is the premise here is there's a new Lion King prequel. Will they learn from the mistakes of the Lion King live action so that it's at Wicked level?
I will say, I do think the prequel is going to be completely different just because it's a new story. So because it's a new story, I think everybody's going to feel completely different. It's not going to feel like the same. Like we're not exactly comparing it to The Lion King because
Yeah.
it's different. It's a different story and it's the
So,
origin story. So
yeah. Have you
that should
heard
be
the
interesting.
controversy? Have you read
I
it?
have not. I have not seen anything about it. Like I didn't even know it was happening until I saw the
So this is
uh
what's controversial because everybody
trailer.
knows the spoiler if you haven't watched it since 1995. Mufasa dies. So you learn that Mufasa's an adopted son. So
Yeah.
whereas like that he is the alpha and Scar resents him despite I think being the older brother. So I think it's going to be the villain origin story similar to Elphaba or Maleficent that maybe will develop some compassion for Scar because technically, according to the rules of hierarchy and the lion patriarchy, um, it was meant to be Scar's, and they were close at one point. And I think they should also share his real name. I don't want to missay it because our
I
research.
have no idea what it is, so I can't.
I
Yeah.
think that I think that it's the right thing for us to go in and just to your point, we won't have the information, so they'll get to do what they did with Wicked because that is the prequel to The Wizard of Oz or like the villain origin story, and you learn that Elphaba is not really a villain. So I wonder if they're going to are we going to change our minds about Scar?
Yes, I definitely think so.
Interesting. I like that. I think that's one of the best things that Disney has done is we like developed this hatred for Maleficent and the Wicked Witch of the West and Scar because we're only seeing the hero's perspective. And we had this conversation on the Joker episode about like the fine line between hero and villain. We were talking about all the Batman movies. It's one of the best lines I would say in cinema when they talk about in The Dark Knight, like that fine line between the two. Because like, what's the difference? And it's like, well, the hero gets hurt and make sure it never happens to anybody again, whereas like a villain gets hurt and then from our perspective, like continues to hurt other people.
Yeah, and I also think it would be interesting to see like the perspective of from the villain side. Like, would we think that they're really the villain if we were seeing it from the other side? Like all of these things that the hero is doing to them. I think it's a very interesting concept.
Yeah. Yeah. So Lion King, favorite character, least favorite character.
So I would say probably Rafiki. We were talking about this before. I think he is
Yeah.
the greatest character. He's the most lively and wise and just and then least,
He's
I
like
don't
the
know.
Buddha.
Yeah,
He's an enlightened monkey.
yeah. Least favorite. I am not sure. I guess maybe the hyenas, maybe.
Whoopi Goldberg did that's I think that might be her best role. Just
Oh,
above Ghost.
she does make it really, she
She's
makes
so
it, it's
good.
very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they're hilarious, but they're also just like, you know, there's they're scavengers. So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna say something controversial. So my favorite is also Rafiki and then Timon and Pumbaa, but I would put Pumbaa over Timon. And then least favorite, I think Scar is an easy answer. I liked kid Simba, even though he was irresponsible and he was
Yeah.
specifically told not to go over there, and he did.
But kids are
Um,
always going to do what they're told not to do.
yeah, but adult Simba kind of pissed me off. Like they were making
Why?
this joke because I don't know. One, I still can't believe they chose Matthew Broderick, but like I wouldn't choose anything else now. I can't picture anything else now. But I just, yeah, I don't know the way he treated Nala. I know he was like traumatized, but like I was a little mad at him, and also the way, yeah, the way that he treated Nala when she came back to save him, and then they like, fall in love. We'll keep it PG, and then he's like, oh man, I'm gonna go back, and runs away, and like doesn't bring her with him. Like feels very impulsive, just like he was as a kid. And then yeah, that bird drove me nuts. But he was a good comedic.
Oh yeah.
One of my favorite parts of the movie actually is when he's caught behind the bones in like bird jail and is like being forced to sing. Um and sings like I've got a lovely bunch of coconuts. First he's singing Nobody Knows the Trouble I See. And he's like
Yeah.
something less depressing, please. John Oliver was a good casting for him for the remake. Like I could
Uh,
see John Oliver being an annoyed bird.
I'm thinking about this too. I actually really liked Scar's song too in the Lion King. Like it's a really good song.
What is it called?
I don't remember.
Be Prepared. It's a
Be
great
prepared. Yeah.
song. And somebody also pointed out that these 90s Disney movies, do you know the villain color in all the Disney movies?
Is it red?
It's green.
Green?
Look at Be Prepared, or look at Maleficent send out her staff, or like the Voodoo Man in um oh my gosh,
I'll have to look.
The New Orleans
Oh,
Disney
the the frog and the prince.
Princess and the Frog.
Or
Same
Princess and the
thing.
Frog.
All these Disney movies, for whatever reason, it's always green as this
I'll have to look.
green
Yeah, I
fire.
noticed.
But yeah, and Be Prepared as he's walking. You'll see it spouting out through the rocks. It's a great song. Villains can get some great songs.
Yeah. And
Villains in air quotes.
and the other thing I was going to say too is I feel like Disney, especially all the earlier Disney movies, there's always like some super traumatic event where a parent dies and it's just like I feel like it's so sad. Like does that really have to happen? I don't know.
What do you think about you've got two girls. What do you think about the Disney of today's age versus the Disney we grew up in, knowing that, like, yeah, a lot of these characters lost parents versus now we've got Frozen, we've got Moana, we've got Luca, we've got Coco,
Well,
Brave.
I would say like it does like I think Frozen the parents die too. Um
Yeah.
I Luca, I love Luca, but I think in some ways all of them sort of have some sort of event happen where they end up on their own. So even
There's not a lot of
Moana,
love, like traditional love
yeah,
stories, though. Like Merida is about her not wanting to have to get married.
to have her
Um,
role. Yeah.
yeah, and then like Elsa and Anna, it's about sisterly love and their love conquering all. Moana is about love for her people and a woman having this opportunity to be chief and then like returning the heart. Um,
Yeah.
and it's really more of I think a story about like connection to nature. And we didn't grow up on that. It was,
Well, we had Fern
Belle has
Gully.
Stockholm syndrome. Snow White gets kissed to wake up. Cinderella, all she wanted to do was go to a party and
Yeah.
like fell in love in one night. Like we grew up with like women getting saved, and now women are in
Damsels in
power.
distress.
Yeah, yeah.
It's true. Like I remember being in Girl Scouts and I was like coming up with a name and I was like, we should be damsels in distress. And my leader was like, no. I was like, I don't know. I was like in third
Wherever
or
that
fourth
leader
grade.
is, thank you for your foresight.
Yeah, because thinking about that, right? Like it's true. That's all we really saw. So
Yeah.
it's such a different perspective now that girls are able to see themselves in different adventures. So
Well, this is where I would argue then for The Lion King. I have two arguments for why it is the way that it is, other than it being Shakespearean, Old Testament, having one of the best soundtracks, being like aesthetically pleasing is one, the opening song is the circle of life. And so the way that it ends, it's similar to Bambi. Because if you rewatch Bambi, short movie, I rewatched it with my niece and nephew, and I'm like, oh my God, this is really sad. But it goes through all four seasons, right? Like it starts with winter and it ends with spring, I think. Summer, maybe. I don't know. I obviously need to do a rewatch. But the same thing with The Lion King, like him putting up his own son with Nala. It's not. I would say, it's one of the best stories. But think about like Ted Lasso. Like, how many movies did we see with Disney with a boy like watching childhood trauma of him losing his dad, and then yeah, the woman he's loved for his entire life is like, this isn't who you are. Like you've always known who you are. But I mean, like Timon and Pumbaa, they were really good friends. But yeah, it teaches you about like the impermanence of life. And it was a good lesson for boys. The thing though is that we didn't get that lesson as girls until your children were old enough.
yeah, that's a really great point. I mean, I hadn't thought about it that way. That's true. Fact.
I asked ChatGPT to roast me like a week or two ago. A friend of the family asked this, and it was it brought up our podcast because obviously I've asked ChatGPT for help with our podcast, and it was like, um, truth or dare to share, more like over analyzing pop culture. But we we get this chance now that we're in our 30s to look back at this stuff and yeah, think about the impacts that content made on us decades later. We wouldn't have known as 8, 9, 10 year olds that only like the boys got a chance to become enlightened and have this. I guess like Pocahontas had a fairy god, or like had the willow tree. I'm probably not. I'm sure there's stories I'm not thinking about. If you're listening, like feel free to fact check me and Cynthia. But maybe we had more and I'm just not thinking about it. I was obsessed with Pocahontas. My entire room was decorated in Pocahontas.
Yeah, I'm trying to think and I don't know. Um,
It was still a love triangle between her and John Smith and
I forgot his name. I
Powhatan,
can,
something like
well, no,
that.
that's her dad's name.
Oh, yeah. I can see him though because he's another one that like when people talk about the attractiveness of cartoon characters,
Yeah.
her love interest that was a part of her tribe. Like no disrespect,
Oh,
John Smith.
this is when we were older though. The guy or why
We
can't I think
prom
of
we promise we're gonna be more prepared in the future.
oh my goodness, why am I
Last
going
episode
blank?
of the season, and we're ending with a bang. It doesn't matter to anybody, but I can see him. Her best friend made me. I mean, her best friend was looking out for her, but I remember like thinking of characters that annoyed me. her friend in Pocahontas really upset me. Did I ever tell you what my mom did related to Pocahontas?
No.
Okay. You might remember this story. I'm sure I told you at some point in our 20-year friendship. So I was really obsessed with Pocahontas. My entire bedroom was decorated in it. So I had my face skated over at Dreamland. I'm sure I've told you that. I was helping up a girl from my class on a busy night at the skating rink. And in the process of me helping her up, I got knocked down. I promise this is connected to Pocahontas and I'm getting there. Just remember one person jumped over me and then a tall man in jeans and a white t-shirt skated over my face. It was bloody and brutal, and there's
So sad.
somebody's mom out there. I was in second grade. I remember skating because it had Dreamland. Anybody who's been in Pensacola, there's an outside sink, and then you like skate into the bathrooms. There's an outside skate, and it was bad. And just somebody's mom, whoever you are, thank you, scooped me up and was just rocking me and was like, "It's okay, baby, it's okay." My mom was just out in the van because this is, the 90s, so moms were not on you all the time, and they dropped us off. I was with my older brother and his friends, and yeah, so I had to have surgery like a month later. I had two black eyes. I have a school picture of proof. I'll share it if I need to. And I had like a plate. So my mom takes me on the morning of the surgery to Toys R Us, and she's like, "You can pick anything you want in the store." And I was like, "Go-kart." And I knew where they were. They're at the back of the store. And I'm like, that's what I wanted. I wanted a go-kart. Cause like, my mom's kind of probably like, what if my child doesn't make it out of this surgery? Let her last memory be pick whatever toy you want. Doesn't matter the price. Somehow on the way to the go-karts, we pass some Pocahontas toys. And there was the raccoon, Miko. And when you squeezed its stomach, it made like a ee. And I wanted it. And she's like, "But remember the rule, you can only get one." And of course, like, I wanted this raccoon. I was like, okay. And then we go to check out, and it's like a month or two before my brother's birthday, and they were selling brand new Super Nintendos. So like I leave with an $18 raccoon instead of my go-kart. And Justin ended up with a $200 at the time Super Nintendo before I go to my surgery. So I can't look at that raccoon and not think I somehow manipulated myself with the help of my mother to not getting my go-kart and instead getting that doll.
Oh,
I mean, I'm
you should
okay.
have gotten the go-kart.
No shit, Cynthia.
Uh,
Yeah, because that's why now
Kids
I
get
live.
so fixated.
I mean, Disney was just like, especially growing up in Florida, I can't imagine growing up as close to Orlando as you are. Because I think I only went 3 times by the time I was 18. Mom took us when we were 3 or 4. I went again with her when I was 12. And then I went for grad night when I was 18. And then I lived in Orlando for 3 years. And I think I probably went like once every 4 months because somebody would visit and they'd always want to go. But I mean, how often did you go growing up?
We went a lot. So we had season passes, and my mom would pick us up after school, and we would go for the afternoon. We would get turkey legs and go on like Space Mountain and then come home. So we went like, I am a quote unquote Disney adult, but
Okay. I
I
was going to
like
ask you.
I like, I like the parks. I don't do like the movies and stuff. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not
What is your
obsessed with the
definition of
IP.
a Disney adult? People in New York, when I say I know Disney adults, you're a Disney adult. I have a friend that lives in Tampa. I won't name drop her. She knows who she is. I would say I have 3 friends that I would describe as Disney adults, but I don't think of it as a bad thing.
Well,
But
like
people in New York, they're very judgy to Disney adults.
I don't own like really Disney stuff. Like, I don't, like, we have ears and things like that, but that's like park oriented, not IP. Like, I don't know. Like, I like the Disney movies, like they're fine, but like I wasn't obsessed with them when I was a kid.
What do you think
Um
about people who are Disney adults, but like they don't have kids?
I think it's I don't know. I don't think it's a big deal because it's just like liking Marvel, right? Like, it's like the same
That's
sort
a
of
true
thing.
Disney adult. I was having this
Yeah.
conversation with somebody. I was like, I'm not a Disney adult, but I was like, but I do enjoy Marvel. And somebody looked at me and they were like, that's about as Disney adult as it gets. Like
It's
I have
true.
friends in the Upper East, and when we were in like peak Infinity War, like going through those movies, we were getting tickets the night it came out, and there was like 30 of us going to those. And yeah, I
And
mean, I'd be
Star Wars
fine
too.
saying that I'm a Disney adult. I enjoy watching the movies for nostalgia, and I also feel like rewatching them, like what we're talking about now, the fact that you didn't know that it was about Hamlet. I don't remember when I got exposed to that. Again, it doesn't. I like
Yeah.
rewatching it now, and especially watching it with my niece and nephew and seeing it through their eyes. I kind of got into it with Kella when she was like 6 because she was like, I put on Aladdin, and she's like, "Can we turn this off?" It's like, I'm sorry, excuse me. We are watching a masterpiece right now, which again, they point out things that are problematic about Aladdin. Like you learn more now when certain things get pointed out to you. But yeah, I mean, let people be happy with whatever brings them joy. I don't care. And if somebody wants to label me that way, that's fine. I I like seeing it through kids' eyes, and I like rewatching it as an adult to like remember those years.
Yeah, for me, like Disney, like the actual theme parks and stuff is so magical. And I think it's because of the nostalgia I have from being a kid. Like going to Magic Kingdom still is like magical to me. So I don't know. But I will say, like for Disney movies, like for me, when I was a kid, I would rewatch like 101 Dalmatians, Cinderella, and also Sleeping Beauty was another one I really liked. And then Beauty and the Beast, and Pocahontas. Oh, but I was remembering one that I do feel like Mulan. So I also really liked,
Mulan is amazing.
but I was in middle school when Mulan came out. So like it was sort of a different experience, right?
That's when we were
And
introduced to Christina Aguilera on the Disney Channel
oh my God.
with her like
Yeah.
Rachel, friend from Friends
Yeah.
haircut. She
I
looked
loved
older
that
with that
song,
haircut than she did when she came out with
The Genie in the
What a
Bottle.
Girl Wants and Genie in a Bottle first. Yes.
Yeah.
Carson
And
Daly.
then, yeah, it's Reflection, I think is the song in Mulan.
Yeah.
So beautiful. So beautiful.
So okay, so that this is a movie that does show similar to Simba's story in that that she's younger and she has to transcend to another level. And it was the core story wasn't about her and the love interest. It was about, again, using the word transcendus, it was about bringing honor to her family. And Eddie, that's also probably one of Eddie Murphy's best role is Mushu.
Oh yes, I love it. Yes.
Yeah, that also that is a live adaptation that I co-sign. It was pretty perfect because I had
I haven't
high
seen it.
expectations. I would rewatch it and just in talking about this. So I have something to admit that I haven't really told anybody. I might have told you this offline. I have been watching Once Upon a Time,
Oh, so good.
and the
So
girl
good.
who was in, I don't know, Jamie, I can't think of the actress last name, but I remember she was in Real World, like San Diego. And she's one of the only real world people to, I would say,
She's
move
married
off.
to an actress,
Yeah,
right? Or an actor. She's married
yeah,
to an actor.
yeah, and I can't think of either of their names, but I can see his face. Not that that helps anybody. But she plays Mulan in Once Upon a Time, and the first season is really good, but it is essentially if Disney were a soap opera. And it's just been something. Work has been kind of stressful the last couple of weeks, which is fine. Work can be stressful, but yeah, it's just like easy watching, and it does when you talk about 101 Dalmatians, it does give you more perspective. One of the key characters is the evil queen in Snow White, and one of my favorite stories is how Prince Charming and Snow White, Jennifer Goodwin, fell in
No,
love with
is that her name?
you,
Yeah.
you yeah. But she met her now husband who played Charming and she played Snow. And so I also watch it just because I like watching them fall in love on camera. But Regina, who plays the evil witch, and later on you meet Cruella de Vil and you meet Maleficent and Rumpelstiltskin's like one of the key
He's so
villains
good
in it.
too.
But you do learn why the source of their trauma from the perspective of the soap opera. So it is like that's true Disney adult is basically watching like Days of Our Lives meets General Hospital meets Disney.
I've only watched like the first 3 seasons. I haven't seen past that. 'cause I didn't have
it
cable
it
anymore.
it you can see why they canceled it, like they kind of run out of storylines and bring in new characters. But the girl Jamie, I can't think of her last name, she also stars in one of the Hangover movies, like ends up marrying Stu. That's the actress I'm talking about. She plays Mulan, and
She's is she married to Greenwood, the one from Prime? The
I
movie.
don't, if you say his name I'll probably recognize
I
it.
think it's Josh Greenwood.
Maybe. He's a very, very handsome guy. They're a very
Yeah,
attractive
he is.
couple. But yeah, Mulan was an important story. I think that we watched it because that was also a bop with Christina Aguilera doing Reflection. It's not an easy, so I'm saying it in karaoke. It's not easy to do. Well, we should probably start to close out. I love that we've talked about Lion King maybe 10% of this, which I think is fine. Like everybody's seen it. I'm looking forward to see. I'm going to look at the origin story with new eyes by the point that you're making, which is like they get a chance to introduce something, and I want to go in with no expectation and see what they do with it. And hopefully they've learned their lesson. I would not recommend the live action. I would say go back to the cartoon, watch JTT, watch Matthew Broderick, enjoy the one of the masterpieces that Elton John has graced us with. I mean, like I might just listen to the soundtrack when this ends, just because. Tell me a
Good.
song. Tell me one song that's on there that doesn't hit.
All of the songs are really good.
So I'm
And none
saying
of them are that sad either, really.
no.
Only the orchestra when the herd is coming.
So before we go to Truth or Dare, what do you think is the biggest lesson from The Lion King that you've taken with you?
I think it's that things are going to happen to everyone. Like bad things are going to happen, good things are going to happen, and they're going to happen the way that they should, maybe. And that we are going to come, as you said, full circle, right? We're going
Mm-hmm.
to go back to where we were or where we should be. Because he does take his place, right? Like it's where
Mm-hmm.
he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Um, he just took a detour.
Yeah, he did. What's your favorite part?
Ooh, I don't know. I think I like when he meets well, well, I think I really like the beginning when they baptize him basically in
Mm-hmm.
in the sun. Um and then I think when he sort of finds himself, when he finds, because I think the other theme is found family, right? Like he created a family for himself, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that is too.
I hadn't even thought about that. I'm going to answer those questions together. So I have two favorite parts that are coming to me on the found family piece when they're staring at the stars and they're hypothesizing like what the stars are. And Simba's like, this is where all the great kings are, and they start laughing. And then
Oh
like
yeah.
Pumbaa's the only one who, maybe they're all right and we just don't know that, but Pumbaa's like, I just thought they were all big balls of gas. And they were like, you think everything is gas. It's like, it is perfect. I really love that moment. And I'm going to combine these two because it's also looking at the stars together and his dad coming to him and being like,
Oh yeah.
oh my God, it's making me cry just thinking about it. And he's like, you've lost your way. Um, and then after that, Rafiki basically, nobody wants to say it, but Simba basically took some ayahuasca and had his dad come to him. And then Rafiki, the shaman, the Buddha, says to him, he hits him with the stick and he's like, ow, that hurt. And he's like, yeah, the past can hurt, but you can either, learn from it. Like that piece, like I would frame that conversation and hang that in my house. I might do that as a result of
I
this.
love that.
It's
That's perfect.
it is. It's nobody wants to get hit in the head with a stick, but if you think about the pain of living in your head, and we've talked about this before, like when you live in the past, it's depression. When you're worried about the future, it's anxiety. And the only thing that exists is the present moment. And so to your point, three lessons, your point about self-acceptance, about you can have found family, and that the past is a double-edged sword. It can either hurt or like, and you can and you can learn from it. It's a choice, but it has to be an active choice. And if you're not conscious of it, then it can overwhelm you and yeah, take you into like this spiral. And a circle can be something really good that like elevates you, or you could just like end up making the same mistakes over and over again because you're afraid of the past.
That's a really good point.
Yeah. Sunday afternoon wisdom, easy like Sunday morning, even though it's almost like 12 o'clock. Cool. Shall we close out with Act 3?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. All right. Lion King, truth or dare style. What you choosing today, Cynthia?
I guess truth. I guess I really like the idea of found family. I feel like you're the people that you are building and you're choosing as your the people that you want to be in your circle or to grow old with or all of these things is so important, and you don't really think about the value of those things until you're older, right? And I think that is my truth, is that I'm very thankful for the found family that I have chosen.
I love that. I love that. I'd like to think I'm one of those people. So
Yes.
I particularly love
Well,
that.
obviously.
I know, I just wanted to be explicit. Yeah, I'm gonna also choose truth. I'm gonna copycat you. Copycat? Get it? Copycat. Thank you so much. Delayed
Well,
laughter.
Simba is a copy paste.
Yeah. We're
So.
there. We're there. I think that something, and I've learned this lesson, but like the truth that I'm sharing is that, you know, one of the reasons I moved from my hometown in Pensacola and I ended up in a place like New York was that I wanted to like create this like new identity for myself. And I've gotten there in the last couple of years, but it took me too long to have that Simba moment of like, and I don't feel like I have to choose. I do think that like I get the whole like home is where the heart is and the risk of speaking in platitudes. But you know, there is a part of me. I always say like New York is home, but Pensacola is the mothership. And I used to think I had to like choose which version of myself I wanted to be. And like even like sitting here and looking at you while Simba's like standing on Pride Rock, like being proud of where you come from. And, you know, the way that I talk about my hometown is shifted over the years. And I'm really proud of where I grew up. There's definitely like any place, like things that I wish and I hope for change and progress. But I when sometimes people are like, yeah, I grew up in this place, and the way they talk about it, I'm just always like, I think I grew up in one of the most beautiful places that I've ever, and you and I've traveled the world together. And so I think about that a lot. And that when I've rewatched this movie and I think about like Simba returning home, that he realizes that. And I think I realized that too late in life.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. Well, if you're listening, think about if you rewatched The Lion King, would you choose truth or dare? Or if you want to roast me like ChatGPT, how you would overcomplicate and therapize yourself using fictional characters. Or if you take nothing away, if you use ChatGPT regularly, highly recommend having it roast you. But then if you need to balance it out, I did ask it to say something kind about me afterwards. And I need like a solid 3-to-1 kindness to roast ratio to be able to process it. Final thoughts, Cynthia, before we wrap?
I think that in the end, you can always go home. I think that's the point too.
Yeah. And sometimes to your point, that home can be your found family.
It's true too.
Cool. Well, Cynthia and I are going to be planning for Iceland with Raquel. This is the last episode of this season. We hope to be back in a couple of months. Hope you enjoy a rewatch of The Lion King or the prequel or any of the other 14,000 movies that we name dropped today. Thank you for listening. Like, follow, share, and we will see you in the next season. Bye.
Bye.
You're listening to Truth or Dare to Share by Ambitiously Intuitive.